Okay, so I want to give a little bit more context for the reason why I'm recording videos at all and how I got to where I am right now. So I explained before that I've spent all of my 20s in college. I'm finishing a doctorate in music, and I am basically seeking alternative employment. I just have come to accept the fact that I may never use all of this graduate work that I've done in a direct way. Um, I can't say that I'm surprised that I'm finding myself in this situation. It doesn't make it any less difficult, um, but I also don't regret spending all the time that I have in school. Um, if I were to have a conversation with my younger self, it would be along the lines of just don't be so hard on yourself, enjoy life. You um, just have a really bright future ahead of you, whatever you choose. And whatever you choose is going to be right, and it's going to be okay, and you're going to have so many opportunities. Don't feel like the choice to finish your bachelor's or your master's or your doctorate, or the choice to leave school and find a job is closing doors that can never be opened again. Just feel you know feel joy, and don't question yourself to the point of exhaustion and being burnt out. um, and I just want to talk right now in this video a little bit about that cycle that I've been through time and time again throughout mm, this journey, especially in my 20s, and going through school, and having many different opportunities and jobs, and kind of always having that feeling of really searching and not finding, just not knowing, not finding. um, I don't remember exactly when it was with my bachelor's degree, but a few semesters before I finished, I knew I was burnt out, and I didn't know what to do about it. I really struggled to share this experience with anybody, and I had a teacher, a music teacher who I was meeting with one on one. So with him there were always many opportunities to just have that private conversation that I needed, and I just don't remember really ever feeling like we could address what was going on. I remember having conversations where we would talk about burnout, and we would talk about how I was having a rough time, and um, you know, it, man, I just remember him being kind, being sort of fatherly, having an element of like tough love, and wanting to guide me toward not letting myself off the hook, or you know selling myself short, that kind of thing. Like really pushing me to work and to be ambitious. And I was just always trying to seek and find acceptance and like freedom, and then getting close to it, I would back away, shy away, suddenly feel like it was dangerous, if that makes sense. um um my where to go next. So socially throughout college, it was tough. I started out at BYU Idaho in a house with roommates who had gone to my high school. So I kind of needed that security of people who were familiar, who had, a similar sort of upbringing. Even though I was at a church school, I was surrounded by people who were members of my own faith, but I still just felt so at a loss and so incapable of bringing new people into my life that I just needed people who were familiar already to kind of touch base with and to be close with. And those people were older than me. They graduated before I was done, and I'd made new friends. It was a house with 4 rooms, 8 guys, and I made friends, but I lost the contract in that house, and it was awful. I just didn't sign early enough, and they gave the contract to somebody different, and I was just so upset. Like I had plans with a friend to be his roommate, and I lost the contract, and I just didn't know where I was going to live. I didn't know who my roommates were going to be. I reached out to a couple of people. I just didn't know many people well enough to really feel like I had any options. So I just had to take what I could get, and I was searching and touring different places, and a spot opened up with some other guys in the music department. And it was just I just couldn't believe it. And I signed the contract as soon as I could. I got in. It was a great year. I was so glad to have these guys as my roommates. We were all in the music department. Um, and the guy who shared my room, we stayed roommates until I graduated. Um, the, we left that complex, and I spent one more semester living in an apartment. Um, and I moved in with him that semester. Um, yeah, and I'm still friends with these guys to this day. Looking back, it's just so interesting to think of how still conflicted and struggling I was going through all of that social interaction, like making new friends and having so much in common with these guys, but I still had this feeling of distance and apprehension. Um, like I just could not let people in. It's just too dangerous to let people in, and um, like knowing that I want nothing more than to have a close friend, but just as soon as I start feeling close to them, all the reasons why they will reject me if they really know me, all those pop into my head. And um, it's so helpful to articulate all this now. Um, Man, I graduated, and I got into grad school. So we're just gonna move ahead. You know, I didn't know what else to do but to keep going, to try to really pursue my talent. I've always loved music. I've always loved playing musical instruments. I fell in love with the bassoon, which is what all my degrees are in. And I've had so many amazing opportunities to be in concerts and recitals and do all these things with this, this random instrument. But I have loved it, and it's been wonderful, and yet it's been really tough. There are a lot of things that I love, actually, that I wish I could do more in my life. I've always loved writing. I um, wrote to my favorite author when I was in high school, asking him what should I do in college, um, because I want to be a writer. I want to write books. I worked on several different books while I was in high school, and then every summer while I was in college, I had lots of ideas for stories. And in high school, I filled up tablets and tablets where I would sort of, it was sort of a lot of vignettes, because it was so difficult for me to like create something with a beginning, middle, and end. But I just loved the process of painting a picture and creating an atmosphere, and sort of seeing characters do actions and seeing life through different people's eyes. My favorite author wrote a really long and really thoughtful email back to me, and told me that if I really wanted to be a writer, majoring in English wouldn't really be the best idea, because it wouldn't really teach me how to write. It would teach me how to please an English professor. And I can say there's something very accurate about his opinion with that. And I didn't I know I took the required English classes, and I'm basing my assessment more on my experience as a musician in a music department. I definitely learned how to, well, I definitely learned what I needed to do to make my music professors happy. Um, I didn't always succeed in doing that, despite really, really wanting to, desperately. Um, but at the same time, having a part of myself that just was just always searching for something else. So I somehow got into grad school. I got funding. I got everything I needed to, pave the way forward. And when I opened up that letter, um, and read the the assistantship package I was being offered, and the tuition waiver and the stipend and everything, I got this wonderful opportunity. I was leaving BYU Idaho. I was going to uh, a well funded, very large state school, and um, I just felt so empty, and I just had to take it on faith that this was a good decision, that this would move my life forward. But I wanted to feel something about it. I wanted to feel happy, and the you know seeing that all the great things I was being offered, it was so weird. There's just that feeling of wondering why life turns out to be so different than what you envision. The first year of my master's was really hard. The second year was even harder. The second year was when I was dating um, my girlfriend. She would become my wife, and we got married, and I stayed in school for the doctorate. And, at the time, she really, really wanted me to leave school, to be done, and to get a job. But that's those words never came out of her mouth. She just told me that she would support whatever I would do, and I'm really grateful to her for being so thoughtful. At the same time, I've sort of wondered, what would have happened? What would we have done if, you know, we had had a conversation, and then I had I decided to follow her advice, you know. And I really don't know what I would have done. I think the idea of getting married was terrifying to me as well. You know, but I love her, and um, I had to base that decision on faith as well. Um, that was scary too. Choosing to get married and choosing to have kids, and now we have two kids, and we're gonna have more, and um, this whole school experience, it's given me a lot, and yet here I am, and I have no intention of applying for the jobs that I'm trained to obtain. Teaching the bassoon. I just don't see myself doing that. I'm looking for other employment, um, and it's been really tough. Just settling on what am I going to apply for? When am I going to make it happen and really commit? And there's just an element of learning to accept that things are a lot better than I envisioned them to be in my mind. Like I probably could get a job as a bassoon professor. I could finish my dissertation, defend it, and get a great job as a bassoon professor. Maybe not this year. Maybe it would take another couple of years before that job would actually happen for me, and maybe it will. I'm okay with that if that happens. I am just accepting that where I am right now, um, I'm I'm willing to say goodbye to that field, and if I never come back to it, it's okay. Um, and in my bachelor's and my master's, there was such a cognitive dissonance of you can't just let go of all this work that you've done. You can't just let go of um, this calling you have as a musician and as a teacher and things. And yet it's like, well, I play music because I'm in school. I feel like I need to teach because that is what you do when you're doing this career path. And yet all along the way, I've always had the thought, you should be recruiting students, you should be performing, you should be doing this and that, and just never following through. And just the cognitive dissonance is so strong, and looking back, it's just like you were searching for something else, and were too afraid to grasp it if you even found it. And it's hard to bring this topic to a happy resolution. I mean, I am sort of sitting with a sadness for that statement, um, of being searching and looking, and yet being in a state of mind where I'm too afraid to really grasp the thing I want, even if I were to find it. It sounds a little convoluted. I hope it's clear enough for me to just move on. I don't know. I think we're all searching, but when that feeling that there's something that you need you don't, there's something missing, and it it's sort of dominating your life. It's You really need to stop and be honest and take a look at yourself. And it might take a long time to really figure out what that is. There might not really be anybody who can tell you what it is exactly. You have to figure it out for yourself. Um, and like I said before, I don't know if what I really need is to leave the field of music. I feel like I've tried everything I can in this field. I've done a job interview. They flew me out to the college. I spent 2 days doing interviews and doing a teaching demonstration and rehearsals and things, and I came home from that job interview, and I was happy I didn't get the job. I worked with my professor um, right at the end of spring semester, trying to get another job that came up. One of his other students was leaving, and the position she was leaving was opening up, and I was putting materials together for that. And when that position went to somebody else, it was okay. I was relieved. I wanted a job for my family. I wanted to provide an income for my family, but um, the fact that I wasn't going to be teaching the bassoon, and that I wasn't going to be, getting my start as a faculty member in a music department, was just a relief. And so now that I'm investing more emotional energy and resources into exploring other careers, which I definitely should have done that in the past. I should have done more due diligence in exploring, is music really a good option for me? Now that I'm doing that, there's definitely a sense of relief. It's scary because you want to check all the boxes when you're applying for a job. You want to feel like you're the perfect candidate, and you don't want to have to go in admitting, you know, I really don't have direct experience that you're asking for this. And you don't want to finish a doctoral degree and be accepting entry level positions. It just feels awful. And it's like, what do you tell your family, and what do you tell the people that you meet on the street? I've got a doctorate and I'm making low five figures. They'll smirk at you, and they'll have questions that, if they're bold enough to ask, that you're not going to care to really answer for them. And but it's okay. It's like I said before, it's worrying about what people are thinking is something that I'm done with. Like, I can't stop my mind from going there every once in a while. And the worrying is a problem that I'll always experience from day to day. But choosing what's right for me comes from a place where the worrying doesn't have power over me anymore. There are days when it really kicks me in the butt, but it's not what's directing my path in life. That's what I've got for now. This this recording went longer than I planned it to, but if you've made it all the way to the end, I really appreciate it. And more videos to come, because it seems like that's what I have the energy to do. So take care. See you in the next video.